Imagine this. A single sentence that shatters a marriage, unleashing a storm of secrets, betrayal, and unexpected twists that will leave you questioning every relationship you've ever known. Buckle up, because once you hear what happens next, you won't be able to look away. Welcome to another chilling tale from Dark Infidelity Stories. You're not stepping out that door in that outfit. That's exactly what I told her. But the instant those words escaped my lips, I realized we'd ventured into a perilous zone. Marian froze right there by the mirror, her fingers lingering on the edge of that unfamiliar short red skirt she'd pulled out from somewhere. Her image in the glass wavered just a bit, and then she pivoted slowly to meet my gaze. Her gaze sharpened, and a smirk tugged at her lips, one that held no real humor at all. "What did you just say?" she demanded. I held my ground and restated it clearly. "You're not heading out dressed like that. It's simply not suitable, and deep down you understand why." "Oh really? So now you're the authority on what's suitable?" she countered, her arms crossing firmly over her chest. "Are we suddenly back in the 1950s, Ronnie? Do I need to fetch my bonnet and matching gloves too?" "You're a married woman now," I fired back, my tone unwavering. "That skirt hardly counts as proper attire. If you show up at a bar looking like that, every man there will assume, what? That I'm up for grabs." Her tone escalated, cutting through the air like a blade, because perhaps I'd actually enjoy feeling visible again, like I still hold some significance in this world. My heart constricted at her words. "I do see you," I insisted. "No, you really don't," she shot back fiercely. "All you do is glance. You glance absently while buried in your phone. You mutter a quick "love you" before flipping over and drifting off to sleep. You haven't truly gazed at me for what feels like ages, Ronnie. That's not accurate or fair," I protested. "No, it isn't," she agreed, advancing closer with her heels echoing sharply on the wooden floor. "So why must I cover up like some modest figure just to earn your approval? Why does wandering alone through the Target parking lot make me feel more vibrant than sharing a meal with you across the table?" I shook my head, fighting the flush of anger rising in my throat. "So this boils down to craving attention, doesn't it?" Her eyes sparked with intensity. "It's about being valued as if I still count for something. About not fading into the background right here in our own home. About sharing life with a husband who fixates more on his work spreadsheets than on the woman he married. Do you even realize why I pour so many hours into my job? It's to afford those very outfits for you, those scented candles you adore, your fancy matcha blends, and your—" "Go ahead and say it," she urged in a hushed, quivering tone. "Spell out what you're truly itching to express." I paused, uncertain. "Come on," she provoked further. "Label me a ___. Or, even better, accuse me of primping for another man. Isn't that swirling in your thoughts?" I tightened my jaw against the words. "What I'm really considering is how my own wife seems indifferent to the pain this causes me." Marian retreated a step, appearing almost taken aback. "Do you honestly believe this is merely about a piece of clothing?" "No," I clarified, "it's fundamentally about mutual respect. It's about returning each evening to a partner who communicates only through biting sarcasm or complete quietude. It's about wandering through my own home feeling utterly alienated." She flung her hands upward in exasperation. "Then perhaps you ought to find a new place to call home, Ronnie. Seek out a woman who's meek, compliant, and dons khakis for Sunday services, because I've grown weary of portraying the dutiful spouse while I wither away in this stagnant space." "You're staying in tonight," I declared with finality in my voice. Marian locked eyes with me for an extended moment. Then a harsh, empty laugh escaped her, and she whirled around on her heel. Without uttering another syllable, she marched along the corridor and slammed the bedroom door with such force that the entire wall shuddered. I stirred awake well before dawn broke, my eyes irritated from hours spent gazing into the void of darkness. The quiet in the room lingered like a silent reproach. Marian had risen already. Her side of the bed lay chilled and vacant. From the kitchen, I caught the faint tinkling of a spoon against a cup. No tunes playing, no soft humming, merely rote actions. I couldn't pinpoint my exact thoughts in that moment. Perhaps I clung to the hope that I could mend things somehow. That demonstrating my concern might cause her to yield a little. So, following my shower, I climbed into the truck and headed directly to the downtown flower shop. the very one I'd frequented back when we were newly dating. I explained to the lady at the counter that I sought something understated yet heartfelt. She presented me with a bundle of soft pink roses, tied neatly in rustic paper. Upon returning home, I placed them prominently on the kitchen table before her. At first she didn't glance up, simply continuing to swirl her tea before murmuring, "You're awake unusually early. I brought a little something for you," I offered. She eyed the flowers as if they were an unwelcome leaflet stuck under a wiper blade. "Roses?" she said under her breath, lifting one to inhale its scent briefly before replacing it with evident dissatisfaction. Yet there was no grin, no expression of gratitude. I lingered there, feigning ignorance of the growing pain in my chest. "You always enjoyed these before," I reminded her softly. "I still do," she replied, snatching her mug and brushing past me en route to the hallway. "But not when they come across as a cheap apology stamped with a receipt." I pivoted to track her movement. "What do you mean by that?" Marian halted, casting a glance back with a wry, tilted smirk. "It implies you believe a bouquet can erase your attempts to dictate my choices. Adorable, yet so utterly foreseeable." "That's unjust," I responded, striving to maintain composure. "What? You're seeking praise now? For grabbing some bargain blooms the day after dictating my wardrobe?" My tone lowered further. "You realize this isn't the core issue here." She whirled around abruptly, her demeanor sharpening. "Then enlighten me, Ronnie. What exactly is the issue? Do you expect me to overflow with appreciation? To feel subdued? Do you imagine I'll dissolve into affection the moment you present a handful of petals and utter nothing profound?" I gritted my teeth, strode to the bouquet and seized it. Her gaze trailed me as I approached the kitchen waste bin and thrust the entire arrangement inside, wrapping and all. "Does that improve things?" I inquired tonelessly. Marian folded her arms. "Considerably." "You've driven your message home," I stated. "No, Ronnie," she retorted sharply. "This is only the beginning for me." I held her stare, desperately seeking traces of the woman I'd wed, the one who'd chuckle at my clumsy verses scribbled on napkins, the one who'd tear up over a modest necklace I'd gifted because it evoked the color of her eyes. But that version was absent. Before me stood a stranger, arms barricaded, jaw rigid, eyes icy. "What became of us?" I questioned more gently. "When did kindness vanish from our interactions?" Marian blinked deliberately. "It faded when you ceased truly noticing me, when you began viewing this home as merely a brief halt amid your endless workdays." I dipped my head in acknowledgement. "So you primp yourself, venture out, and disregard me as a form of retribution?" "No," she clarified, "it's to reaffirm that I remain vital, that my heart still beats strongly." The ensuing quiet erected itself like a barrier we'd constructed jointly, layer upon resentful layer. She pivoted once more, retreating toward the bedroom. "No need to fret over the garbage," she tossed over her shoulder. "I'll handle it myself." I remained solitary in the kitchen, palms braced on the countertop. The surroundings appeared unchanged. The coffee maker, the familiar stool she favored for perching, that absurd magnet on the fridge proclaiming, "Home is where the heart is." Yet it no longer resonated as home. It resembled a theatrical set, with two performers enacting a union that had long outgrown its original narrative. And for the initial occasion, I questioned whether we even recalled our parts anymore. In the ensuing 3 days, I made genuine efforts. Heaven knows I poured my soul into it. Not the extravagant sort, filled with lofty declarations or sweeping romantic acts. Instead, I opted for subtle, tender approaches. I'd rap softly on the bedroom door prior to entering. Inquire if she'd care for a cup of tea, suggest fetching her beloved Thai cuisine for dinner. One evening, I even lingered outside the bathroom merely to bid her good night through the closed panel. More often than not, silence was my only response. Marian had adopted this fresh cadence, deliberate, distant. Her steps grew softer, yet her aura amplified. She navigated spaces as if deliberately embracing obscurity. The sole element surpassing her quietude was the persistent tapping on her phone. She was perpetually engaged with it. Upon my entry into the kitchen, she'd be propped against the counter, gaze downward, fingers flying across the screen. In the living room, she'd conceal it swiftly behind her as if guarding a forbidden note. Once, I witnessed her beaming, a radiant, heartfelt smile I hadn't received from her in what seemed like forever. Then she lifted her head and spotted me there. Her expression plummeted like a veil descending, swift and absolute. She cleared her throat awkwardly. "Could you give me a moment?" Of course, I agreed, withdrawing. Yet I hovered just beyond the doorway, straining to hear. Nothing at first. Then the gentle patter of keystrokes resumed, followed by laughter, subdued, genuine, not intended for my ears. That evening I attempted once more. I bided my time until she emerged from the bathroom, her robe cinched loosely at the waist, moist hair gathered in a haphazard knot. She appeared weary, but not from mere exhaustion of the day. This was a deeper fatigue. "Hey," I ventured softly. "Do you have a spare minute?" She wavered. "I'm on the verge of phoning my mother." "It won't be lengthy," I assured. Marian exhaled heavily, as though I'd requested an immense favor. "Fine. What is it?" I gestured toward the dining table. She trailed behind, arms barricaded, settling opposite me as if we were convening for a formal meeting. "I simply need to grasp our current standing," I explained. "It seems we're coexisting in parallel, not truly together." She glanced at the clock impatiently. "Ronnie, I'm genuinely not up for one of these discussions right now." "One of these discussions," I repeated. "I'm reaching out to you, Marian. You scarcely acknowledge my presence anymore." "That's inaccurate." "You were grinning at your phone earlier today," I noted quietly, yet not a single smile for me. She massaged her temples wearily. "Bringing this up again? Don't you realize I've observed how you clam up whenever I approach? Or the way you tilt the screen out of view every time I draw near?" She offered no rebuttal. That absence of denial stung more profoundly than any argument could. "I'm exhausted," she stated plainly. "May I leave now? Are you communicating with someone else?" I pressed. "Just level with me." Marian's face remained impassive. "I have the right to friendships. Is this a friend I'm acquainted with?" She rose suddenly. "I'm not subjecting myself to this. I refuse to be questioned in our shared space. This belongs to both of us," I reminded, my volume escalating for the first time. "Mine as well. And still, you behave as if I must justify every interaction with my device." "You owe me transparency," I asserted evenly. Marian regarded me intently for a prolonged instant. Then she smiled, not with warmth or mirth, but the sort one dons upon reaching a firm resolution. "Good night, Ronnie," she uttered and departed the room. I refrained from pursuing her. The residence descended into that eerie stillness, where even the refrigerator's drone reverberated like a storm. Later, passing the bedroom, I noticed the azure luminescence seeping beneath the door. Typing, ceaseless typing. It dawned on me then. She wasn't merely withdrawing. She was fleeing. Not in body but in spirit. And there I remained, confined within the same walls, attempting dialogue with a person who'd already departed. It was shortly past midnight when the jingle of keys at the front entrance reached my ears. I stayed rooted on the couch. For 2 hours, I'd occupied that spot in darkness, phone abandoned, fixated on the unlit TV, anticipating her return. The lock turned, faltered, then engaged properly. As the door creaked open, Marian staggered inside. Her locks disheveled, lipstick streaked haphazardly across her face. Her heels struck the tiles in an erratic rhythm. She hurled her bag to the ground as if it had wronged her, then braced against the wall for support. "Would you look at that?" she slurred, gesturing vaguely toward me. Still perched there like a forlorn sculpture. I held my tongue, merely observing. She narrowed her eyes. "Expecting an apology from me? Because that's not on the agenda tonight, darling." I rose deliberately. "You've had too much to drink." She erupted in a raucous, unattractive chuckle. "Oh, what a scandal." Marian indulged in a couple of Cosmos and flirted with a jukebox. "Sound the alarms for the whole block." "You're intoxicated, Marian. Head to bed." "Don't dictate my actions," she barked, advancing unsteadily in my direction. "You no longer hold that power." "I never sought to dominate you," I replied serenely. "I only desired honesty." She smirked, though her eyes remained void. "Well, here's a dose of reality for you," she hurled. "I've connected with someone. A guy friend. Did you catch that? Someone who actually hears me out. Someone who doesn't lounge on the sofa like a lifeless form. I met her gaze steadily. Are you hoping for a reaction from me? Her jaw quivered slightly. No. I want you to experience an emotion. Jealousy, rage, pain, anything at all. I inhaled deeply and steadily, then pivoted and proceeded to the bedroom. From behind, she sneered, fleeing as usual. But I wasn't escaping. I accessed the closet, retrieved the nearest suitcase, flung it onto the bed, and commenced packing her garments, one item after another. Precise, hushed, systematic. Marion entered moments later, still teetering. What on earth are you up to? I avoided her eyes, simplifying things for you. She blinked, her mascara blurring beneath her lids. You can't be serious. I secured the zipper on the case. You mentioned discovering another. That's your path. I'm merely providing the room to pursue it. Her voice fractured. Ronnie, I extracted another bag and placed it on the bed. I still care for you deeply, she murmured. I promise I do. I faced her at last. Her cosmetics were ruined, her eyes hazy. But genuine dread lurked there now. You admitted it yourself, I responded. You found another. It was meaningless. Don't do that, I said softly. Don't diminish us both. She gazed downward at the luggage. Where am I expected to go from here? I'm uncertain. That choice rests with you now. Marion remained immobile, her breaths coming in heavy waves, observing as I stowed the final jacket. I never anticipated you'd follow through, she confessed. I figured you'd shout, implore, battle for us. I hoisted the bags and transported them down the hall. She trailed spectral-like, now shoeless, silent save for her respiration. Upon opening the front door, the nocturnal breeze surged inward, chilly, invigorating, nearly revitalizing. I positioned her cases on the porch exterior. Marion lingered in the entryway, arms enveloped snugly around her form. Please reconsider this, she pleaded, her tone diminished. Yet I offered no reply. I retreated indoors, and for a brief instant she hovered on the brink, partially inside, partially beyond. Then she too withdrew. No, she gathered her bags and relocated them outside. I'll depart, she declared, as if the phrase outweighed the baggage itself. Then, without further exchange, she pivoted and settled on the porch stairs, fixating on the shadowy vicinity. I shut the door softly in my wake. The interior grew tranquil. For the first instance in weeks, it reclaimed a sense of belonging to me. I shed no tears, raised no voice, merely returned to the living room and reclined. Not from emptiness, but from completion. The following dawn, the residence echoed with emptiness, yet a peculiar serenity prevailed. No pattering in the corridors, no device vibrating behind sealed doors. No lingering scent of her fragrance. I positioned myself by the window, mug of coffee clutched, observing the foliage dance in the garden. Briefly, I permitted myself to envision stability had returned, that perhaps the turmoil had subsided. Then I erred by unlocking my phone. There she appeared, Marion, dominating my screen as if she'd orchestrated the ambush. A monochromatic image of her perched on those porch steps. Eyes swollen and red, lips quivering subtly for effect. The accompanying text proclaimed, "At times, those vowing to shield you are the very ones discarding you like refuse. But I'll persevere. I always have." It had already garnered hundreds of responses, numerous hearts, and an excess of remarks. From her sister, "You merit far superior, Mandy. He's perpetually been domineering." Her aunt, "Appalling. You've supported him endlessly, and this is his gratitude." Some unfamiliar fellow, "If you require a confidant, my messages are available," with a kiss emoji. And then the outsiders flooded in. Comment upon comment, dissecting me as though they possessed intimate knowledge. Condemning my reticence, my perspective, my sanctuary. He likely strayed initially. No decent man evicts a woman without cause. There's hidden depths here. She appears shattered. Heartbreaking. My grip intensified on the coffee vessel until it groaned in protest. I delved deeper and uncovered another entry. This featured a hazy snapshot of her suitcase on our veranda. "This depicts the discarding of affection." The approvals surged by the instant. My chest constricted painfully. She was reshaping the tale, casting herself as the wounded party and me as the antagonist. Worst of all, nobody probed for clarity. They devoured it ravenously. I sank into a chair at the table, the device's illumination bathing my features in a frigid sheen. I recognized I could mount a defense, share my narrative, unveil the facts. But an inner voice halted me. Because if I must justify to outsiders that I'd endured months of neglect, belittlement, deception, then perhaps I'd surrendered too much of my essence already. Nevertheless, humiliation coiled in my stomach like a clenched hand. She hadn't merely exited our abode. She'd absconded with the truth and peddled a fabrication instead, and society embraced it wholeheartedly. The communication arrived that afternoon as I queued at the hardware outlet, grasping a fresh furnace filter and straining to recall if we possessed underwear back home. From Travis W. Ronnie, might we converse sometime? No theatrics. I merely seek comprehension. Marion's sibling, the identical one who'd uttered not a peep to me since her exit. I fixated on the message for a solid minute. Mentally, I transported back to their kitchen long ago. Travis and I hunched over the counter, debating the Browns' offensive strategy while Marion rolled her eyes and chuckled. He once dubbed me Biggie. We'd shared brews, viewed postseason matches, even assisted one another with drywall installation. And now, following weeks of hush and social media portrayals branding me the fiend, he desired dialogue. A fragment of me yearned to disregard it, allow the void to convey the message. But another segment, the fatigued, eroded portion that still yearned for someone to value the authenticity, compelled me to respond. Available today? He shot back immediately. Yes. Prefer a call or in person? Call to start, then decide. En route home, I activated speaker mode and initiated the call. He answered warily. Hey, it's Roddy. A beat, then, appreciate you returning my call. I maintained an even keel. You mentioned wanting insight. What precisely puzzles you? I'm uncertain what to trust these days, he conceded. Marion's broadcasting to all that you ousted her in the dead of night. Claimed you hurled insults, that you were constantly suspicious and envious. But that doesn't align with the man I know. I released a measured sigh. It doesn't. She got the detail correct about me packing her things and placing them on the porch, but she omitted the segment where she arrived home at midnight, inebriated, with lipstick smudged, and confessed directly to me that she'd encountered another man. Not a colleague, not some casual acquaintance. A real man, and she wore that fact like a badge of honor. The phone line hung silent for several heartbeats. She'd been craving a strong response from me, and since I held back from shouting or smashing anything, she accused me of not giving a damn anymore. Damn it, Travis breathed out under his breath. I figured she was simply caught up in her feelings. I had no clue she'd actually entangled herself with another person. I tilted my head back against the headrest in the truck. I'd offered her so many opportunities along the way. I'd made real attempts to connect and converse with her. Yet she barricaded every single pathway. And the moment I finally stood my ground and defended my own heart, she dashed straight to her online platforms, clutching a camera in one fist and a heartbreaking tale in the other. He let out a heavy sigh. Yeah, I caught sight of all that. The snapshot from the porch, her entire performance as the abandoned soul. My mother's been raging nonstop since then. She already harbored a grudge against you, so this was like pouring gasoline on an already blazing inferno. Now she's got the entire community convinced I'm some sort of beast. Even folks I hardly recognize are sharing that image far and wide, branding me as utterly callous. I chose not to share it myself, he added in a subdued tone. That's precisely why I'm reaching out to you at this moment. A prolonged hush settled over the connection. To be completely upfront with you, Ronnie, Travis finally broke the quiet. Marion's forever had this dramatic spark to her. You remember, she can summon tears at the drop of a hat, reshape any narrative to shield herself better. She pulled those same tricks on our folks back when we were just kids, but this situation feels off somehow, like she's putting on a show rather than genuinely suffering. I never demanded perfection from her, I responded. Just straightforward honesty. She couldn't manage even that much. Perhaps I ought to have contacted you earlier, he conceded. I'm not pushing you to pick a team here. simply to pause before embracing her account as absolute fact. He released a deep, drawn-out exhale. Here's an idea. Let's discuss this further. Not over the line like this. Mind if I drop by in person? I wavered for a second. Are you certain you want to associate with the supposed bad guy? I couldn't care less about the opinions of Marion's circle. What matters to me is uncovering the real story. Swing by around 5 o'clock. The entrance will be unlocked for you. Once the conversation wrapped up, I lingered right there in the driveway for what felt like an eternity. It didn't bring full resolution. Not quite yet. But it marked the initial genuine indication that the actual facts still held value for at least one person. And right then that small spark proved sufficient. Travis rolled up shortly past 5. Same familiar pickup, same quirky parking habit, veering a bit too much onto the grass as if boundaries never concerned him. I'd positioned myself on the porch already, propped against the sturdy post with my arms folded, not exactly anxious but far from relaxed. He emerged from the vehicle, paused to survey the house as though it appeared diminished in his memory. Then he ascended the stairs and halted at the summit, maintaining a respectful distance. "Is this the spot where everything unfolded?" he inquired, gesturing toward the vacant area next to the doorway. "It is," I confirmed. He refrained from sitting down. "So did I." "You gathered her belongings and placed them right here?" "I didn't abandon them to the elements," I stated firmly. "I didn't bolt the door shut on her. I set them down carefully and stepped away." "She claimed you hurled them out as if they were worthless scraps," he murmured. "She spun quite a few tales," I countered. Travis buried his hands deep into his jacket pockets. "You could have reached out to me, buddy. Shared what was brewing before it escalated to this mess. I assumed you'd already aligned yourself firmly." His gaze sharpened. "I'm her sibling after all. Precisely my point." He blew out a forceful breath as if he'd been containing it since exiting his truck. "Listen closely, Ronnie. I made the trip because I truly wanted to absorb your perspective. That's what I expressed. But standing here now, witnessing how stark and chilly this all appears, I'm uncertain. I'm not sure what I anticipated." I held his stare steadily. "Did you expect me to be weeping, to completely unravel? Would that simplify believing I'm not the fiend she's portraying across the internet?" His jaw clenched tightly. "She's not peddling falsehoods. She's in pain. She's also updating her feeds multiple times daily, adjusting the filters on her sorrowful expressions." Travis recoiled slightly. She felt utterly devastated. She was secretly messaging another behind my back. I retorted sharply, beaming at her screen like an infatuated youth while I lingered across the table, desperate for her to engage. "She insisted you were overly suspicious, domineering. She mentioned you'd level accusations every single time she stepped out. Because I sensed it deep down," I explained, my words now edged with intensity. "I knew she concealed secrets. Do you honestly think I fabricated it all? That I invented the grins she hid when she believed I wasn't observing? The hours she'd spend barricaded in the bathroom, glued to her device? She craved some breathing room. What she truly required was truthfulness. And she possessed none of it." Travis averted his eyes, his jaw grinding subtly. "She confided that you left her feeling utterly insignificant. I poured every ounce of myself into her that remained. She no longer sought a partner, Travis. She yearned for admirers." He retreated a step. "That's harsh, man. It's the unvarnished reality." A heavy moment stretched between us. Extended, rigid, laced with resentment. Then his gaze reconnected with mine. "Do you still harbor feelings for her?" I didn't so much as flutter an eyelid. "I cherish the woman I exchanged vows with." His lips parted as if a retort brewed, yet silence prevailed. He strode to the porch's brink, halted, then pivoted. "You might have managed the situation with more grace. You could have exercised patience, allowed her space to reflect." She staggered through the door intoxicated and declared she'd discovered another soul. I questioned what additional time was I meant to grant. Travis shook his head dismissively. "It hardly matters now. She's blood. I must stand by her even in her missteps." I inclined my head once. "Then your visit isn't about comprehension. It's about justification." He descended the stairs wordlessly. Upon reaching the gate, he lingered with his palm on the handle. "You're not the person I once believed." I remained unmoving. "She isn't either." He banged the gate shut in his wake, the noise reverberating along the deserted road. I held my position until his taillight's crimson glow vanished into the distance. Only then did I settle onto the porch steps, the identical perch where Marion had wept, and permitted the quiet to envelop me like an unwelcome garment I'd never chosen. The following nightfall, I embarked on an action I'd never envisioned for myself. I trailed her. It stemmed not from vengeance, nor from snaring her in a compromising moment for some trivial victory. I'd already grasped the reality. My instincts had signaled it for weeks on end. But mere awareness no longer sufficed. Not amid the narrative she broadcasted globally. I craved irrefutable evidence. Solid, indisputable confirmation. I stationed my vehicle 2 blocks from her pal Kayla's place, the spot she'd mentioned as her temporary refuge. I switched off the ignition, reclined in the driver's seat, and bided my time. No tunes blaring, no warmth circulating, just the whisper of tires gliding over damp asphalt, and my heartbeat drumming steadily in my ears like an insistent timer. At precisely 8:42 in the evening, she emerged, clad in a sleek black gown, accented by crimson stilettos. Her tresses styled in those elegant waves she reserved solely for our milestone celebrations. Not by herself, he towered over her, sporting a beard, grinning as though secrets were foreign to him. He rested his palm gently on the curve of her lower back, a gesture that screamed familiarity. Marion didn't recoil. Instead, she melted into his touch. They shared chuckles as they strolled beyond my truck. She neglected to scan her surroundings, failed to check for watchful eyes. And why bother? She'd shed all need for concealment. I shadowed them into the heart of the city. Their initial stop, a dimly illuminated venue with plush barriers and rhythms spilling forth like hazy vapors. I maintained my distance across the avenue, device gripped firmly, observing from amid a cluster of folks puffing cigarettes. It unfolded swiftly. She swayed with him on the floor. Deliberate, intimate. Her arms draped around his neck, his digits gliding along the contour of her back. They flowed in sync as if this dance had been rehearsed, far from their debut entanglement. Then, at 9:27 p.m., she pressed her lips to his. No fleeting brush, no clumsy mishap, no excuse of overindulgence. A profound, joyous embrace. The type that proclaimed, "You belong to me now." I captured the image, then snapped another and yet more. They departed that establishment and ambled 3 blocks, fingers intertwined, to the next. Additional swaying, further caresses, endless mirth as if destiny had gifted them a clean slate. Onto the 3rd venue. Near 11:40 they perched at the counter. She nestled her head against his shoulder as he navigated his screen, likely plotting their subsequent adventure, perhaps even discussing me. Anger eluded me. That revelation caught me off guard most. Instead, exhaustion washed over me as I observed her in that attire, her beam refined, her stance impeccable. It struck me that she hadn't merely abandoned me. She'd seamlessly substituted me. The gentleman beside her didn't shy away from her affections. Didn't withdraw when her laughter rang too boisterously or her words cut sharply. He embraced it all. Absorbed her essence as if he'd anticipated this liberated incarnation of her. Unbound, unpossessed, liberated. And perhaps she'd yearned for this self-reinvention as well. Yet all I perceived was the lady who'd once slumbered beside me, enveloped in my sweatshirt, murmuring quips into the shadows. And now, she transformed into an unfamiliar figure in elevated shoes. By midnight, I navigated back home. No haste, no reckless velocity. I simply reviewed the captured scenes repeatedly, each frame more chilling than the prior. I anticipated the judgments if I ever revealed them. Folks would probe why I'd shadowed her, why I hadn't released her fully, why I clung, but they'd fail to comprehend. When an individual brands you a beast, you either vanish into obscurity or you present the reflection. I messaged Travis the subsequent dawn. Grant me 10 minutes. No debates. Simply show up. He delayed his response. I wasn't shocked. Following our porch confrontation's bitter close, I braced for quiet. Yet 20 minutes on he fired back, arriving at 2. I avoided pacing, skipped any practice runs. I merely printed the photographs, devoid of labels, apps and highlights, just unfiltered instants preserved eternally. Her palm on his torso, their lip lock beyond the venue, the manner she chuckled against his frame. Upon his arrival, I greeted him at the threshold and extended the packet before he crossed inside. "What have you got here?" he queried. "Simply examine them." Travis peeled open the seal and extracted the collection of shiny prints. With the initial one, his forehead creased. The next, his mouth parted faintly. By the third, his arms sagged and the image angled toward the ground. "She swore it wasn't that way," he whispered. "She deceived us." He leafed through the remainder deliberately, as if each visual bore increasing weight. "She claimed you drove her off, that she sought solace, that this fellow was merely a companion. Do those resemble platonic embraces to you?" I posed, my tone subdued yet resolute. He stayed mute, fixated on an image where Marian's digits wove into the man's facial hair, their brows touching as if the universe contained only them. I tailed her, I confessed. I resisted the urge, but with everyone tuning me out, I resorted to the sole dialect that resonates nowadays. Evidence. Travis collapsed onto the porch step as though his legs suddenly betrayed him. "I stood up for her," he uttered, scarcely audible. "I confronted you harshly. Banged your gate as if escaping a deceiver. You were distancing from your sibling's fabricated tale." He raked a hand through his locks, then gazed blankly at the roadway. "This wasn't a fleeting error," I elaborated. "This appeared orchestrated, refined, effortless. That individual understood her intimately, and she mastered erasing my existence." Travis avoided my eyes. He persisted in staring forward. "She convinced us she was shattered," he remarked. "But she was covertly constructing a fresh existence while we scrambled to align allegiances." We lingered there for an extended period, exchanging few words. Occasionally he'd rearrange the prints, verifying if reality had shifted in our absence. "She's bound to resent me for this awareness," he eventually voiced. "She's your kin. That bond endures." He assented gradually, yet my perception of her alters forever. For the first occasion in weeks, a sense of resolution anchored within me. Not tranquility, not triumph, just lucidity. The variety that emerges solely when the facade crumbles at last. It was nearing midday when the rapping sounded. 3 gentle knocks, followed by stillness. I halted in the kitchen, immobilized, my coffee still partially consumed in my grasp. Instinctively, I sensed the visitor's identity. Another series of knocks, amplified this round, tentative, echoing. I approached the entrance deliberately and swung it wide. There stood Marian. Bare-faced, eyes swollen and inflamed, strands bundled in a disheveled twist, as if slumber had evaded her entirely. She appeared diminished, as though vitality had ebbed away. "Hello," she breathed. I remained silent. Her glance flickered beyond me into the home's interior. "May I enter?" I held firm, blocking the path, anticipating. She gulped. "I lacked alternatives. They're shunning me. My folks. Even Travis. He ignores my attempts to reach him." Her words fractured. "I simply require, I'm unsure, a brief respite. A serene haven." She lifted her gaze to mine, hunting for tenderness, a lifeline. I shifted aside. She crossed the threshold gingerly, her footfalls delicate as if fearing the ground's betrayal. Marian lowered herself onto the sofa, the identical nook where I'd endured countless evenings in solitude, unraveling the unraveling of our world. She surveyed the space as though it had matured in her absence. "It carries a scent of evergreen," she observed distractedly. I braced against the door jamb. "What's the genuine purpose of your visit?" She faced me, her eyes already shimmering. "Because," I faltered gravely. I offered no reply. I never foresaw this escalation. I didn't intend for the chaos to erupt. It was merely, I felt isolated, and he offered compliments, and for a fleeting instant, it uplifted me. My response came level. He offered compliments. She affirmed with a nod, tears cascading unchecked. "That's the extent. I vow it lacked depth. I orchestrated nothing." I craved visibility once more. And the embraces, the dances, did those contribute to that visibility? Marian's lips parted, then sealed. Her respiration faltered. I lacked the strength to halt it. I'm clueless why I permitted it. I scrutinized her intently. She avoided deceit. Yet full candor eluded her too. Did affection factor in for him? I inquired. No, she hastened, perhaps overly swift. It fell short of love. It represented, I'm uncertain, validation, liberation. I was submerging, and I grasped the nearest lifeline. And you disregarded who might submerge alongside. She bowed her head in remorse. Forgive me. You broadcasted to everyone that I inflicted pain. I articulated that I expelled you, that I embodied cruelty. You rendered me an outsider to all acquaintances. She shielded her visage. I lacked alternative narratives. Terror gripped me. I inhaled profoundly, allowing it to root within. You haven't returned from longing for me, I murmured. You've returned because options have vanished. She snapped her head up. That's false. Yet it rang true. We both recognized it. I never sought flawlessness, I affirmed. Merely authenticity. Marian denied with a shake, tears plummeting. Ronnie, I implore you. Please don't bar me. I've forfeited all. My kin, my position. My companions deem me unhinged. I scarcely recognize myself presently. I advanced to the entrance and rested my palm upon it. She rose. Her timbre quavered. You're truly proceeding? I affirmed with a nod. That's everything I required, I declared, and I sealed the door. It was advanced spring when Travis reappeared. Unannounced, sans message, merely the recognizable grind of his aged truck over the pebbled path, as if it reclaimed its place. I unlatched the screen as he disembarked, brandishing a half-dozen beers like a gesture of truce. He withheld words initially, simply elevating the pack marginally with a curt inclination. I yielded passage. Still prefer it chilled eternally. We claimed the porch steps as in days past. Two fellows scarred by varied tempests, conveying volumes through sparsity. The initial gulps passed in hush. Then he expelled air via his nostrils and remarked, they evicted her, you're aware. I glanced sideways, your parents. He confirmed, informed her she'd disgraced the lineage, asserted she'd smeared our reputation with her dramatic spectacle, and upon her refusal to own it, they severed ties. I withheld commentary. She forfeited her employment too. Personnel caught whispers of the turmoil. Excessive overt breakdowns they cited. Couldn't confine it to personal realms. He fixated on the distant foliage, brew balanced on his leg. She's bunking with Kayla currently, crashing on a sofa from reports. I inclined my head gradually. She continues her updates. Not lately at all. She's essentially faded away into the background. We lingered in that profound realization for quite some time. The sun slipped downward at a leisurely pace, carving out stretched shadows all over the porch surface. The air carried hints of freshly cut grass mingled with echoes of the past. Travis took a thoughtful sip and proclaimed, I've made mistakes on so many levels. I shifted my attention to him. He was a far cry from the man who'd stormed off, slamming my gate just months earlier. He locked eyes with me steadily. You didn't deserve a single bit of what she put you through, and my blind loyalty kept me from seeing it clearly. I gave a slight shrug in response. Sometimes, that kind of devotion clouds judgment far more than it holds things together. He let out a soft chuckle, followed by a casual shake of his head. Then came another drawn-out pause between us. The type that truly feels well-earned after everything. Then I whispered, almost to the quiet around me, justice from fate always finds its path in the end. Travis agreed with a nod, lifting his bottle high. It certainly does. And there we remained, soaking in the dimming light, just two individuals enveloped in a stillness that, for the very first time, required absolutely no words to fill it. And with that, the story wrapped up. You know, when Travis appeared right there on my porch, gripping that pack of beers and completely aware of every lie his sister had spun, he still chose to sit down beside me. He offered a sincere apology without hesitation. So, here's something to ponder. If someone in your own family shattered lives through a web of deceit, Would you gather the strength to stare down the truth just like he managed to? Go ahead and drop your thoughts in the comments section down below. And hey, if this tale tugged at your heartstrings or sparked any emotions deep inside, do me a favor, hit that like button, smash subscribe to the Dark Infidelity Stories channel for more gripping narratives just like this one, and don't forget to share it with your friends who might need to hear a story that hits this close to home. Plenty more intense tales are lined up and ready for you.